At this moment, I'm bringing Managing Director, Strategic Management Associates, Jeff Alvich, on qualified immunity. At the top of the hour, we're going to speak to Warren Binford, a professor of law and a child advocate, to talk about what is going on at the border facilities and what does he know. Dr. Stephen Porges at the bottom of the hour, the next hour. He has a very important theory called the polyvagal theory, 800-222-5222. Right now we're going back out to Jeff Alvich, Managing Director of Strategic Management Associates. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Dr. Drew.
So I've been chanting for a while about trying to find a way to hold politicians accountable the way you, Jeff, or I would be if we engage in reckless negligence. There would be legal action, or at least legal remedies, particularly if we took action that materially led to the harm and demise of other humans. And we have politicians that are doing that actively, and we have to do something to protect lives. What can we do?
Well, I think first we have to understand and be able to speak the language. And let me kind of explain or expand on this just a little bit. And of course, as you know, I am not an attorney, so the discussions we're having are not legal advice in any shape or form. But in my career, I served for almost 30 years, local, state, and federal levels in public safety, concluding my position as fire chief. And furthermore, I've worked for the Department of Homeland Security as well as the corporate world in doing risk and threat management. And whether you're working in the public sector or private, the literal same laws and rules and issues are still in apply and still in effect, from the standpoint that you cannot direct anyone to do something that is criminally illegal or unethical or unsafe to someone. Now, the difference is of course, with the regulations, laws, and standards with public safety. Now, specifically, when a jurisdiction is filing paperwork for their disaster reimbursement funds and things of that nature to be able to pay for mutual aid, they sign a document. The city, the special districts, the county, and the state all sign documents that eventually go up to the federal government, certifying that they are in compliance with FEMA planning standards.
Okay.
Part of the FEMA planning standards requires you have what's called a critical priority risk index. Now, this is nothing more really than a cheat sheet that identifies the types of incidents or events that can occur. And it very simply looks at the type of incident, the duration, the impact, the time of warning, et cetera, to a community. And this includes, of course, vector control, heat-related fires, floods, civil unrest, terrorist acts. As a result of this list that they put together, they're supposed to have plans, policies, and procedures based upon this.
Who's they? Who's they?
Types of events.
Who is they?
And this
No, Rick. Jeff. Who is they?
Coming down from presidential executive orders and going all the way down to the California government code that spells out specifically what they're supposed to be doing.
So, Jeff.
Yeah.
So the federal government has a risk plan. The state government has a risk plan. Does every city need to have a risk plan?
Absolutely. This is required of all government agencies and special districts.
Great. I love this. So can I ask for the city of Los Angeles' risk assessment plan?
You can ask for it, but you probably won't get it because it would be classified as for official use only because of the potential threat and vulnerabilities that it would show of the city for someone who may not have the best of intent.
Well, I have horrible intent. I want to help the citizens. So
But we know they don't have a rodent control plan.
I know.
They've told us on air. We've had a city councilman tell us that.
I'm imagining that the risk assessment plan is totally inadequate also.
Right.
So I would like to see it. Now, is there a way I can get to read it?
You would end up having to go to a judge and have the judge order its release.
How do I do that? Do I have to sue somebody?
A request under the Freedom of Information
Freedom of Information, okay.
You writing this all down, Leeann?
Then you'd have to file a lawsuit, basically.
Maybe we can get Harmeet Dillon to do it.
But there's a simpler way, I think, to pursue and go about this.
All right.
When we're dealing with elected officials and department heads, and specific to the city of Los Angeles, we have to remember that the department heads from police, fire, the fire chief, Reynolds, who's head of DOT, et cetera, they really are not working, quote, for the city. They are part of the mayor's executive management team. So their value systems are a little bit different than the rest of us are looking at. And as such, one of the things that they are mandated to do is, I should say, all government employees have a waiver of government immunity or from liability, except if you look at the California Government Code, Section 815, it calls for a mandatory duty of public entity to protect against particular kinds of injuries. And if they fail to do that, their government immunity is now waived, meaning the police chief, the fire chief, the head of transportation, whomever, is now personally liable for those injuries and damages.
Here's my concern. We have to take a little break here. It's one of my big concerns. So I got to do that. And I'm looking up the code. 815.2. Is it that one?
0.6.
0.6. And these are the people that I think are getting hurt more than anybody. The sanitation department and these are the guys that are being put in harm's way on a daily basis. And the police were unable to do their job because of what the politicians are. Why don't they should be suing their boss, really? Okay, we'll take a little break here. It's Jeff Alvich, Managing Director of Strategic Management Associates. You can find him at SMA Equalizer, also SMA of SoCal.com. We're going to keep this conversation going. 800-222-5222. Leeann Treat and Dr. Drew. It's Midday Live, 790 KBC.
Have a suggestion on how we can improve? Dial us on the KABC Impact Line, 424-271-0199. We're listening. Like when you said,
in the morning I like to hear local news.
Well, we are excited to announce our new partnership with LA's #1 morning news, the KTLA 5 Morning News.
I'm Megan Henderson. Now you can hear the KTLA 5 Morning News live on AM 790 KABC weekday mornings from 4 to 6.
Help us help you. Dial the KABC Impact Line, 424-271-0199. Thanks for your input and for listening to AM 790 KABC.
Midday Live, we are joined by Managing Director of Strategic Management Associates, Jeff Alvich. He's walking us through measures we might consider in trying to get our public officials to do their job. You can find Jeff on Twitter at SMA Equalizer and also at SMAofSoCal.com. And Jeff, and risk analysis, again, give me the name of that form.
It's actually called a Critical Priority Risk Index.
Critical Priority Risk Index. Leeann's got that. Okay. And before the break, you were walking us through some of these other issues whereby we could get the appointed officials into the crosshairs.
Right. And let me take this one step further. One of the things that's mandated under presidential executive order is that all plans, policies, and procedures must be tested and certified. And this is done and was established under President Bush. He established what was called HCEP, or the Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program. I was one of the original 18 instructors that traveled across the country training and certifying government agencies in how to do this. And part of this is you have, whatever the plan is for instance, like let's say it's for vector control, rodents, right? It has to be tested for its ability to prevent, protect, mitigate, respond to, and recover from one of these levels of events.
How do you do that, though? I mean, realistically, how do you test that?
There's actually a complete series of taskings. Matter of fact, there's a total of 3,600 taskings that have already been identified that you can select from to test these plans, policies, and procedures.
Jeff,
and it can go anywhere
when you were running around
type exercise where you deal with concepts and theories and issues that may come up and to identify those, all the way up to what's called a functional exercise, which is actually a full-scale simulation, or actually what's called a full-scale exercise where you simulate a real-world event.
And Jeff. When you were running around the country educating, did you come to Los Angeles? Did they take
believe it or not, even though I'm based here, no, I did not do any training here in Los Angeles.
Shocking. So go ahead. The full scale, I imagine the full scale are things like when they reenact plane crashes and train crashes and things like that, right?
Earthquakes or something.
It can actually even get more broad than that. As an example, I was the senior Homeland Security manager who was in charge of Operation Chimera. Chimera was an anthrax attack on the MTA subway system. And so at 11 o'clock at night, us with MTA and multiple local, state, and federal agencies shut down the subway system A simulated agent was released within the subway system, and we evaluated the ability to respond and to recover and protect if such an event happened.
So if you were looking at our situation here where we have real potential for serious infectious disease breaking out, we have people with progressive illnesses dying on the streets, what would you, if you were evaluating that city or coming to do the educational program, what would you suggest they do?
I'll be honest with you. When your producer, Emily, contacted me over the weekend and asked me to participate today, I really happened to give us a little bit of thought. And knowing what I see and what I know about the systems, right now, they have, in my professional opinion, between 80 and 90% of all resources necessary to implement tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just give you a quick example of this. Let's talk about the homeless population just for a moment, which, of course, the homeless and vector control are basically tied together. The city and county have liens on property. And the biggest expense that everyone has is trying to find housing facilities for them. Let's face it, that's costly. And the feds have given the regions millions of dollars to make this happen. And it's been very slow at best. The properties that they have tax liens on and other types of liens that they foreclose on, they now own these properties. They have a funding source. They can easily take these industrial, commercial, business, and even multi-residential properties.
But Jeff, the homeless don't want to go. No, the homeless don't want to go. And the ACLU won't let them move them if they say, I don't want to. And
the fire chief has a tool.
What's that tool?
It's called the Special Hazard Declaration.
Okay, that's another tool we didn't know about.
Okay.
Special Hazard Declaration. Can only the fire chief do that?
Yes.
Why him? Because of if they're living in the woods and they start a fire, like in Miller.
You have to remember, in just a quick brief, everything, all buildings, structures, fences have what's called an occupancy classification, or basically a use of what it is for. This includes the sidewalks and everything else. A special hazard declaration the fire chief can employ when a special hazard exists that is not normally associated with a particular type of occupancy, that is either not being mitigated or handled, poses a threat to public safety or risk, or even if it is lawfully assigned to another agency.
All right, so okay.
It can do the declaration and take it away and take complete control of it.
All right, so Jeff, hold on. I got to keep you across another break. I want to talk about how we apply that pressure, because that seems like a plan. 800-222-5222. When we get back, we're going to talk about the fire chief, what he can do, and what we're going to do to get a hold of him. Leeann Tweed and Dr. Drew, it's Midday Live, AM 790, KABC.
Here's the plan. It's Peter Tillman. On the next Peter Tillman 6, we'll talk about the Iran situation, of course, the ICE crackdown, and also the rise of gray divorce. That's right. Oldsters are getting divorced in huge numbers. Why?
I don't know. Internet?
All that and more. Starting at 6 right here on AM 790 KBC.
Midday Live, Leeann Tweed and Dr. Drew, 800-222-5222. We've got Jeff Alvich, Managing Director of Strategic Management Associates. You can follow him at, Jeff, I lost your website. What is
SMA Equalizer, and then SMAofSoCal.com.
There we go. Before the break, we were talking about applying pressure to the fire chief based on the Special Hazard Declaration. How would we go about that, Jeff?
Well, the important thing is that we have to give these department heads, including the fire chief, the tools to use, because they're sitting in a very difficult situation, let's face it, as well, both internally, operationally, and politically. So what needs to happen is the community needs to formally inform the fire chief that they're aware of these hazards and the specific ones in specific detail, and in essence, request action.
How specific do we say?
I want to do it live on the air. So
right.
Listen, here's what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to tell you, here's my assessment. And I've practiced medicine for 35 years in this area, and my assessment is based on a lot of training and experience. But if you want to assemble your own blue ribbon panel and have a look at it, please go ahead. But you're running out of time. And if you don't, I want you to know that you're on notice.
Right.
That a really serious problem is afoot, and we would like the Special Hazard Declaration to be made.
But when we have to be specific, because it has to be with the fire chief, does it have to be something specific to being a fire hazard, or can it be anything health-related, because they also send out services like, first aid and stuff like that, paramedics, yeah?
It is the full scope, including environmental safety issues.
Ooh, I like that.
All right, so we're gonna refocus our attention, and not to. I'm giving this man a chance to be a hero. His name is Ralph Terrazza, and
Yeah.
and
He's the fire chief of the
he could be a hero, and
LAFD.
he could really save lots of lives. But
Exactly. One of the other things that can support him is to bring up the point of, with regards to testing the plans and policies, and believe me, LA City does have a vector control program, no matter what that elected official says. When these plans are tested, they have to have an improvement plan that goes with them, including, because nobody's plan is perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to identify what those improvements need to be. There has to be a completion date, as well as what department, agency, and individual is directly responsible for this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is all part of your grant funding processes. So this is another thing that the fire chief could certainly look into and bring to bear, because that is going to give true information of where the status of the plan, policy, or procedures really exist, and work as a great foundation to start from.
well, Jeff, you've given us a lot to work on here, and we are going to immediately begin this process, right? Lori, you're going to get us the fire chief? We need to talk to the fire chief. We're going to put him on notice publicly and let him talk to us here on the air. And, Jeff, we may have to come back to you for tune-ups and more suggestions and more detail as we move on through this, but we're trying to save lives here.